Hey there, and thanks for joining us on GamePoints, episode 79, our weekly little get-together. We talk about the past week in gaming news. I am, as always, your host, Stephen Brown. Joining me today is David Smith. Tonight, we're going to get into details about Steam Greenlight being dead, the CastleVania Netflix TV series, which sounds fucking amazing. We have a bunch of tech stuff we got to get through. We're going to talk about some Switch tech specs. We're going to talk about HDMI 2.1. We're going to get into some really boring Activision conference quarter news stuff, but
you always got to find something.
It is important to discuss and to let people at least be somewhat aware of. However, before we get into any of that, I want to ask, did you see any of the Grammys last night, David?
Yeah, I saw 21 Pilots take their pants off.
Fair enough. I didn't know that happened. I didn't watch the show. What I specifically was going to ask is, did you see CeeLo Green advertising the new Overwatch skin?
I thought it was CeeLo 3PO.
Also, just as good. I'm sure if you're watching this right now, you've seen it already. If not, just type in CeeLo Green Grammys, and it is truly a sight to behold.
It's funny. It's great.
As I mentioned before, this is GamePoints episode 79. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching us here on Twitch TV/GamePoints, please feel free to join in the chat. The whole podcast is designed to be conversational. We'll take questions, answer questions, mention your feedback live on air. If you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to like, subscribe, and do all that stuff down below that you want to. Without further ado, however, David, let's go ahead and get right into the news, and that is going to be what I mentioned earlier. Steam Greenlight is dead. Long live Steam Direct. What are your immediate opinions on this, David?
Well, what's funny is this article happened, and the first thing that I saw was Steam Greenlight's no more. And I was like, fuck yeah, fuck Steam Greenlight. And it's like, welcome Steam Direct. It's the exact same thing with less gates, except for now you pay money.
Yeah.
Because instead of having any amount of moderation, which the Steam community isn't actually moderation, but with Greenlight, people would vote for their favorites, and that's the stuff that would be let on. Potentially, you could have a bunch of bots vote for something, but that's a little bit of a barrier. Someone was watching it. Now it's pay Steam an amount of money, which they haven't decided yet, anywhere between $25 to $5,000. They have no clue where they're going to go with it.
Now,
the higher they go, the more they'll filter out some of the bullshit, but the more they're going to hurt potential indie guys. But regardless of all that, it's kind of just an open net.
Yeah. To be fair, a couple things I want to address. One, I believe they did charge $100 to get on Greenlight to begin with, which explains why they just let everything on there. And two, we'd actually know very little about what this does. Let me go ahead and bring up the official Steam blog page right here, talking about evolving Steam. This did come out February 10th, which was Friday, I believe. The article goes on to say, quote, "This new path, which we're calling Steam Direct, is targeted for spring 2017 and will replace Steam Greenlight. We will ask new developers to complete a set of digital paperwork, personal or company verification, and tax documents similar to the process of applying for a bank account. Once set up, developers will pay a recoupable application fee for each new title they wish to distribute, which is intended to decrease the noise in the submission pipeline. While we have invested heavily in our content pipeline and personalized store, we're still debating the publishing fee for Steam Direct. While we talked to several developers and studios about an appropriate fee, and they gave us a range of responses from as low as $100, which is what the Greenlight was at, I believe, to as high as $5,000. So here's the thing about that. They are asking for more information than there was before. As it was before, you could just go, hey, here's my game, put it on Greenlight, and they said okay. There is going to be at least somewhat more of a paper trail, but that's not going to stop shit from getting through. The only thing that this is going to stop are poor people from being able to put shit up on Greenlight. You're still going to get crap on Greenlight if they have enough of daddy's money to throw around. This does nothing to cut into the poor quality of what is the indie scene on Steam right now.
You mean the 39% of Steam games?
Yeah. What was it? 60% of all Steam games were released last year, I think was that story that we read.
Oh, yeah. Just absurd.
There's still no quality control. There's still no way to prevent abuse of the system by handing out 3 free codes left and right. It just makes it more costly to get your foot in the door, which, like I said, doesn't eliminate bad ports, asset flips, and just outright copyright theft. All it does is eliminate people from putting shit up if they don't have that front cash to begin with, which means if you're a small development studio like, say, Subset Games, the maker of FTL, which we'll talk about them later, and you don't have that initial $5,000 to put up a fucking game, your game just isn't going up. It tosses out the good and the bad if they can't hit that paywall. Now, a lot of this is also going to depend on what they mean by recoupable application fee. Does that mean Steam will reimburse you if it sells a certain number? We don't know. They didn't really get into details about that. But as a general...
It's still very early. We don't know.
Yeah. As a general rule, I am very much against paywalls as a form of quality control because they don't control any quality. It just keeps people from putting up a whole bunch of shit at once if they don't have the money for it. But like I said, if they have daddy's money or if they kickstart something and only get like $3,000 or whatever the gate is, they can keep putting out all these shitty asset flips. And you can kickstart something for $3,000 if you're savvy enough with your lingo.
Though, on the other side of the fence, we do kind of have to acknowledge the fact that Steam at least is trying something new, because we already know that they're not going to go for like the Apple plan of every single thing submitted to their store is going to go to them to be vetted first before it's allowed on. Because while Steam has a shit ton of money and a whole bunch of people, I don't think they actually have the resources in place to manage that kind of system.
No,
they would need to hire an entire new division, have a whole bunch of people just sitting there to check out games all day, every day. And the amount of submissions they get are probably so astronomical that they kind of need something automated. And this is, while it's not Greenlight and it's just something else, who knows?
See,
maybe it'll help, maybe it won't.
You kind of disprove your statement with the first thing you said right there. Steam has a shit ton of money. They can hire a squad of 5 to 7 people just to sit down and spend 30 minutes with these games and go, no shit, yes, approved, yes, approved.
What I'm saying is 5 to 7 people isn't enough. I'm saying they would need a fucking warehouse of people. 60% of all Steam games came out.
A shit ton of money.
They're not going to
spend.
It's just not going to happen.
No, they can do it, and it really wouldn't impact their bottom line, is what I'm getting at. I don't think it would impact their bottom line too much. What it means is that Steam just doesn't fucking care because they're already making a shit ton of money. If anything,
what I would say is that the middle manager that would suggest that kind of solution is just going to get laughed out of the conference room. It's like, let's just hire a bunch of people to look over all these games and see if they're good or not.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're not going to do it. What I'm arguing is they can do it if they wanted to, and I don't think it would really hurt their bottom line all that much. It's just that they don't care about quality because they're getting paid from all these other developers, even if they're putting shit out. Essentially, when you have a fucking I mean, look at all these dumbass asset flips and Unity stock engines and graphical games that don't even run on Steam at times. Valve doesn't fucking care. They got their cut. They got their money. They paid the toll, and they can put it out there. That's why you're not going to see the quality control pop up, is because Greenlight makes them a lot of fucking money.
Makes sense.
And so I don't necessarily begrudge them for making as much money as they want to.
That kind of would potentially go along with my thought. While it's technically possible that they could get a whole bunch of people and it wouldn't hurt their bottom line, it does directly impact one of their cash flows.
Yeah, fair enough. But I'm just saying, when you said they don't have the resources to do it, that's bullshit. They have the resources to do it. They have more access. Steam is flush.
But the thing is they while they may have the money to do it, I guess what I should have said is they have no reason to do it.
Yeah, that's well. It depends on
from a purely
health here.
From a purely business-minded, monetary, like shareholder-style standpoint, there's no fucking reason that they would ever.
I would argue the reason that they should do it is because Steam is starting to become kind of a laughingstock, and people are kind of going, "Oh, there's 100 shit titles out right today. I'm not even going to bother looking at the marketplace anymore," and that is going to start chipping away at their bottom line.
Well, that's the thing, is they don't have to worry if any of these games sell. They're getting their money up front.
But what happens is that when you start having more and more people stop looking at your website, that's going to start infecting your long-term sales overall of other games that actually might be good. They're damaging their brand name by allowing this to continue. And that is going to have devastating effects down the road.
It's possible.
That's how I look at it.
They're just really fucking big. And the amount of people that are going to get pissed about stuff like this is not significant, I think.
Possibly.
There's people like us, and there's probably a whole handful of them, but I don't think a huge percentage of the Steam market share is going to be like, oh, well, they're changing this and the quality of most people don't care.
Yeah, I mean, this could be one of those things where I'm just a little too close to the forest to see the trees. It's that thing that I was talking about when people were like, oh, they fucking censored insert Japanese game here. And it's like the vast majority of people don't even know who made that game or who's in it. They just know that they like that kind of game. So they don't care about these stupid-ass controversies that come out. This could be the same thing. I just personally feel like they are doing damage to the Steam brand by not cleaning up.
I would be happy if they fixed it.
Yeah.
And again, you don't know. Maybe they're going to implement this and it's going to be great. And then all of a sudden, fucking all the new games on Steam have a base level quality. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, it is at least something. Ultimately, it just feels like Steam has found a way to make more money with doing absolutely little. And that was someone's Twitter quote. I can't remember who, so I don't necessarily want to take credit for that.
Get it, random guy on Twitter.
Yeah. And it just feels half-hearted at best. Anyways,
what else is Valve up to?
Yeah, let us know what you think about Steam Greenlight in the comments below, or if you're live, feel free to put it in chat. What else Valve has been up to, however, though, is that they are still on wrong thing. I went the wrong way.
Terrible.
They are still committed to VR. Now, this story comes via Polygon, and it's Valve is working on 3 full VR games. Gabe Newell says the next generation games won't be real demos. The article goes on to mention that they're working on 3 new virtual reality games, which company chief Gabe Newell describes as full games rather than tech demos. At a media roundtable...
That's really exciting to me.
Yes, same here.
That little bit.
At a media roundtable at the company's Bellevue, Washington headquarters on Thursday, Newell said that games represent a second generation of VR releases, which will be longer and more in-depth than previous demo-like experiences. Thank God. Because let's face it, this first round of VR games that have come out have mainly just been designed to sell VR rather than actually be games.
With the exception of Resident Evil 7.
With the exception of Resident Evil 7, which I would put into the category of this first, the first of the second wave of games that are actually, games and not
games.
Batman VR.
What we talked about that VR needed.
Yes.
Actual experiences, not virtual roller coasters.
Yes. By the way, if you haven't played Resident Evil 7, I highly recommend taking a look at it. I should have a side podcast about that going up here in about a week or so, and I'll make mention of it when it comes out. But VR isn't going anywhere. I'm happy that's not going anywhere. However, it is starting off a lot slower than I thought it would be, and I think it's because people are kind of looking at this going, cool, that looks amazing for 30 minutes. It's not enough for me to pay $400, $600, $800 on.
Yeah. We need the killer apps that actually move VR.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to start getting them this year. And I'm glad to know Valve is putting some oomph into it.
Valve doesn't make that many games, especially not anymore.
No,
the last release being like 4 years ago. The stuff they make does really well and tends to be pretty damn good.
Well, when did Dota 2 come
Name
out?
a Valve game you don't like. Dota 2 was 2013.
Didn't like Ricochet.
Ricochet? I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know if Valve made that. It's essentially a source mod. Kind of like
that doesn't count.
But anyways, yeah, good to see that Valve is still committed to VR. Good to see that companies are still putting money into VR. I was a little bit worried there that this might be time for people to start pulling out because I want VR to take off, and I think it will, and I think a lot of big brains in the industry think so as well. So definitely worth to see what might come out from Valve there. Quick question, do you think that this is what they'll put Half-Life 3 on?
They won't make Half-Life 3.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think we've already beaten
for the same reason that they're not going to hire a bunch of people to go sort through all of their Greenlight games. They're not going to make Half-Life 3.
Why make one game that a lot of people like that will never live up to the expectations that people have for
it's literally impossible they can make a game that's going to be the game that people want. No matter what, they're going to piss off a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. It could be the best game of the last 10 years, and people will still bitch about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's safer just to not make it. Fuck you, fandom. Anyways.
Which is upsetting because, I like Half-Life, but...
Anyways, next topic. E3 is going to be out in public this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still not going.
Yeah, neither am I. E3 is selling a limited number of tickets to the public this year. Tickets for the general public went on sale today, and the early bird pricing is already sold out. But you can get 3-day passes still up as of the time I wrote the notes here for $249.99. Essentially, this gets you access to the whole show floor, and you too can wait 4 hours in a line to play a game that comes out in 3 months.
Yep.
One thing to be aware of.
It's just funny because E3 is caving back. Well, I don't want to say
They've done
back,
this a couple times before in the past, and they keep trying to reinvent themselves.
Back in the day, E3 was much more open than it is now, and then they pretty much closed their doors. And when that happened, the Penny Arcade Expo happened.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden there was no outlet for all these nerdy gamer kids that needed something to do. E3, when I was a little kid, was the big thing. That was the show, or that was the conference that I needed to get to. That's where all the new stuff was going to happen. But the way everything's built now is companies don't wait for E3 to announce everything. They don't. I mean, Nintendo does everything on their own with Nintendo Direct. Sony kind of does their own things. They have the PlayStation experience. Microsoft is constantly doing different stuff. So the big three don't have to wait for E3. And then you have Tokyo Game Show, you have PAX, you have all this stuff. So E3 is just not what it used to be.
Not only that, but more and more bigger publishers are just completely pulling out of E3 and doing their own things. What they'll do is they're like, nah, we're not going to pay the E3 Association to set up a booth. What we're going to do is we're going to run out to this theater across from where you guys are doing your shit, and we're going to have this presentation here. So they're using the E3 name without actually paying E3 for it. And this is probably a response to it because they need a way to start generating more and more revenue. One thing to keep in mind, these tickets do not give you access to the conferences. So don't buy this $249.99 pass thinking you're going to be able to sit at the Sony conference or the Xbox conference or the Bethesda conference if they have one this year.
Show floor only.
Show floor only. And like I said, you as someone who knows people in the industry who even have like the quote unquote fast pass to get up to E3, you're still waiting in line a long time. And these are people who have connections. If you're just Joe Schmo, you're literally going, okay, I'm seeing these 3 games today, and that's it. Just buyer beware. It is an experience. It is a conference. It's like, imagine Comic-Con.
Also,
like
I have to point out the fact that E3 is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, middle of the week.
From noon to 6 each day.
Yeah. So you're taking vacation time to do this if you're willing to do it. Hey, if you want to go, more power to you. Just
for sure.
Be aware E3 has been glorified and
I mean, if someone gave me free tickets and paid my airfare, it's not like I wouldn't go.
Yeah. Just keep those in mind before you spend the money. Anyways, next topic.
A bit more exciting.
CastleVania is coming to Netflix. And it's being brought by the guy who gave you the gritty-ass Power Rangers remake. Adi Shankar, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Shankar?
Shankar. Anyways, if you haven't seen that Power Rangers remake, go to YouTube, type in Power/Rangers.
Phenomenal.
Super dark. It's got Katie Shakoff and The Beak in it. I highly recommend taking a look at it. This story is coming via IGN. Netflix announces CastleVania animated series. As part of its slate of new premiere date reveals, Netflix also revealed Castlevania Season 1, Part 1 will be arriving this year, though no specific date was revealed. Netflix's website lists the series as a 4-part season, each of the episodes running for approximately 30 minutes. According to Netflix's official description of the series, Castlevania will focus on the game's franchise's Belmont clan as it follows the last surviving member of a disgraced Belmont clan, trying to save Eastern Europe from the extinction at the hands of Vlad Dracula Tepe himself. This is very much a Castlevania done in the vein of Game of Thrones, said Shankar as the project, and said that the series is going to be R-rated as fuck. Reports also state that
so good.
Yeah, reports also state that Warren Ellis of Planetary Transmetropolitan Red fame is writing it. I am so excited for this. Now, details for this have actually been around for almost 10 years, it looks like. This guy last year tweeted out there he was working on something like this. So it's not necessarily new, but I think this is the first time we've seen it announced in any official capacity.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm pretty down with this.
It's going to
just mainly because who's behind it. Because there's a lot of times where you have issues with different video game or other franchises being transmitted to a new media. I mean, I can think of 1,000 examples. Street Fighter the movie. There's a lot of really
Street
bad
Fighter,
content out
Mario
there.
Brothers, Mortal Kombat. You want to talk about some newer ones? Fucking the Assassin's Creed movie had a lot of star power to it. Kind of sucked. The Prince of Persia movie sucked.
We can get more into that later. But the names behind this are a bit more inspiring because Shankar also worked on like Dread, Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Young Justice, like a bunch of really cool shit.
This guy knows how to handle nerd property.
And yeah, his little Power Rangers like on YouTube is one of the cooler throwbacks to my youth that I've seen. So I'm pretty excited that he can manage to not fuck this up. Plus, the quality of Netflix shows has been pretty damn good recently. I mean, a lot better than anything you're seeing on primetime, for sure.
Warren Ellis is writing it, so I'm super fucking excited about that too. The guy did one of the most beloved Iron Man story arcs of all time with the Extremis arc. That was actually what was loosely based on what Iron Man 3 was loosely based on, and more or less how the Marvel Cinematic Universe Tony Stark got his backstory from was from Ellis's writing. It's going to be the Castlevania show is going to be based around Castlevania 3, specifically Dracula's Curse, so it's probably going to be following Alucard and Trevor Belmont. And I'm excited that it is going to be R-rated as fuck, as he said, because it needs to be R-rated as fuck. By the way,
great.
Did you know, David, that Alucard backwards is Dr. Acula?
What?
Yeah, I know. Scary, huh?
That's crazy.
But yeah, looking forward to that.
In acting.
Looking forward to that later this year. Highly looking forward to that. Next topic.
Something I am less looking forward to.
Yeah. Call of Duty going back to its roots. Now, this is via Forbes, and it is in response to the fact that Call of Duty Infinite Warfare more or less didn't do as well as other Call of Duties. The article goes on to say that Infinite Warfare met with fan backlash, underwhelming sales, and a disappointing reception in 2016 by fans and critics alike.
Those COD kids hate space.
Yeah, they did not care for it. That was
this isn't a World War or some generic version of the game I've been playing for the last 10 years. Why is this different? Fuck this shit.
That's the takeaway from Tuesday's earnings call with Activision CEO Eric Hirschberg. In 2017, developer Sledgehammer would take Call of Duty, quote, back to its roots. Yeah, I think this sucks too, because I really liked Infinite Warfare, actually. I thought it was a fun game. I liked that they finally went way into the future with it, rather than flirting with near and 20 years from now future stuff like they did in Ghost and Advanced Warfighter. But apparently I was one of the few that did it.
Now, here's my question. Because while Infinite Warfare didn't do well, and people are mad at this, and they're going to take Call of Duty back to its roots and whatever, what are the odds that the next one, even if it's fucking World War II Call of Duty again, does just as bad? Is it potentially possible that Call of Duty has finally met the saturation point?
I think so.
Do people just want the churned out, rehashed, retextured version of Call of Duty again that badly?
I think people are done with Call of Duty as a franchise. I think it has peaked, and I think we're going to see diminishing returns from here on out until it goes away for a couple years and comes back. Now, all that said, I do think it's time to revisit World War II. It has been a very long time since we've seen a World War II first-person shooter. So if they say go back to its roots, I kind of hope they're talking about the World War II roots and not the Modern Warfare 1 roots, which, albeit, was the high point of that franchise. I want to see it. I want to go through and do the D-Day invasion again. I want to plow through the Battle of Berlin. I want to participate in the African campaign once more. It has been a long, long time since I've had any of that historical fun. Fun
Battlefield
quotation marks.
Battlefield went back to World War I. Why can't Call of Duty go back to World War II?
Yeah, and it was super successful for Battlefield 1, I believe. I actually need to double-check to make sure that's true before I just go saying that, but I think it was actually successful for him.
But I mean, at this point, there are 14 Call of Duties.
God damn.
Yeah, we've had a Call of Duty. We've had a Call of Duty every year since 2003.
Well, let's see. So there's Call of Duty, Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3, Modern
Call of Duty
Warfare.
4.
Was there a Call of Duty 4? Oh, Modern
Call
Warfare.
of Duty 4, Modern Warfare is 4.
Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3.
Skipped one.
I know I'm skipping them. I'm going back to them. So it's
okay.
Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3. Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 for 6. Black Ops 1, 2, and 3, 9. Infinite Warfare, 10. Ghosts is 11. Advanced Warfare is 12. What others am I missing? Big Red 1, maybe?
World at War?
Separate. World at War. Yeah, I forgot about that one. And what was the other one?
I don't know. I got lost.
Okay, fair enough. Probably Big Red 1, which was the Wii port, I think.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But yeah, there's been a shit ton of them.
Yeah. The Call of Duty not performing too well, however, does have some negative effects, and that is manifest in the fact that Activision is currently having layoffs. Sorry, guys. Via Kotaku, Activision has big layoffs despite surpassing financial targets. Activision Publishing, keep in mind this is separate from Blizzard, laid off a number of employees across several companies this week, Kotaku has learned. The publisher let go of staff at Infinity Ward, Beanox, these guys helped do Skylanders crap, and other internal studios, as well as their corporate office, according to sources, despite saying yesterday they had surpassed their revenue targets for 2016. This is what happens when you underperform. Sorry, Activision surpassed targets in 2016, not because of these studios, but because of Blizzard.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Activision has a lot of stuff that's not doing well, like Infinite Warfare, all that shit. But Blizzard is a powerhouse, and that's why their stock stays stable.
Yeah. There's a lot of bitching of people going, oh, this is the big bad company valuing profits over people, and they're firing people left and right. It's like, yeah, they are a company. They are beholden to their shareholders to make as much money as possible.
Yeah,
That's
they are
how
a publicly
this works.
traded company.
And when you look at your overall ledger, and you see that you made a lot of money, but you see that these few studios were actually costing you money at the end, you cut overhead, you trim the fat. And if Call of Duty and the toy-to-life market both bottomed out this year, then they get trimmed. That is what happens. It sucks, but these guys aren't in the game to give people jobs. Sorry, that's just how it is. I think the hand-wringing, especially in the way that headline is written, let me bring up that headline one more time. Where is it? Here we go. Activision has big layoffs despite surpassing financial targets. Come on, Jason. Come on. You know why they got fired. It's not because Activision as a whole did really well. It's because
can we throw out though the fact that the game industry title was Activision Publishing cut staff. Disappointing year prompts layoffs. Hey.
What? I totally missed what you said, because the headline says Activision has big layoffs despite surpassing financial targets. Where are you reading?
The GameIndustry.biz article.
Oh, okay, the second source I have on my notes.
Yeah. I'm just saying there's the way the other article's written. Because, I mean, there's two different sources for this, but
yeah. Well,
one of them is very
GameIndustry.biz article,
bad, and the other one's, hey, guess what? A bunch of studios underperformed and they got cut.
Yeah, GameIndustry.biz is sourcing the Kotaku one, which is why I picked the Kotaku one to highlight.
I'm just talking about the article titles.
Anyways, back on topic. It sucks. They're a business, though, and if you're underperforming, you get your staff cut. That's just how things work. Sorry, guys. But while we're on the topic of Activision financials and all that good stuff, and I know it's a super riveting topic of conversation, let's talk about this interesting dynamic between Activision and Bungie, and that there might be Destiny 2 this year, despite us not hearing anything about it.
Fancy.
Now, this is via Kotaku. Destiny 2 is still coming this year, Activision says. Going back to their big quarter call, Activision has stated on their earning call that a full Destiny sequel in 2017 to broaden the franchise's global reach, which along with following content plans and sets the stage for further growth, will be out this year. This is essentially them saying, yeah, we know you haven't heard anything about it, but it's coming this year. This is somewhat surprising given how little we know about Destiny 2, but according to Jason Schreier's sources, if Bungie misses this year for Destiny 2, Activision is awarded a hefty chunk of the independent studio stock. Essentially what that means is that if we don't get a Destiny 2 this year, Bungie loses some of its independence because Activision just gets to kind of swallow up some more pieces of them, so they have an incentive to make Destiny 2.
Mm-hmm. They'll churn something out regardless.
Yeah. Now, Bungie themselves have actually responded to this article, saying, quote, "There is no scenario where Activision or any other partner we work with is awarded Bungie stock," end quote. This is a rare thing for a company to do for the most part, because usually if there's a rumor and it might be true or no one cares about it at all because it's so outlandish, it's not even worth the time of reporting, no one will say anything about it. They'll just go, we don't comment on rumors and speculation. The fact that Bungie actually straight up came out and said, no, that's bullshit, makes me think Bungie's right on this one. Mm-hmm. However, all of that aside, Bungie employees still have a lot of their stock options time to vest, essentially time to where they can make money on it, around game releases. So there is a lot of financial incentive for them to get Destiny 2 out this year as well. What does all of this mean ultimately? Well, you could take one of two viewpoints on it. One, you could take the viewpoint of, oh shit, Destiny 2 is going to be rust just like Destiny 1 was, and it's going to be a disaster, and oh fuck, the sky is falling. Or two, which is the view I take on it here, is that more and more publishers are starting to learn that 3, 4, 6, 10 years of hype do more damage than good. And now they're all starting to follow the Bethesda Fallout 4 play, and they're just going to hold their cards really close to the chest and go, this game is coming out, and it'll be out in 6 months or less.
Yeah, I actually think that's more likely. We haven't heard anything about it, but I bet this game drops before November.
Yeah, and I have no worries about being a bad game. I know a lot of people like to shit on Destiny, but you know what? Destiny was fucking fun.
Well, and they announced it like super early, and they showed off a bunch of features that weren't in it.
Yeah,
right.
The first Destiny clearly had a rough time coming out. There were clearly rewrites and changes.
It grew into itself, right?
Yeah.
From what I understand, the current version of Destiny is far superior to the launch version.
Absolutely agree.
So hopefully they've learned, because they have a better baseline to start with to make the next game. They've actually probably been working on it, at least some kind of assets, or someone's been brainstorming for sure. So I'd imagine they've been tooling with it for a while.
I want to say it was originally timed to come out last year, November of last year.
Mm-hmm. But instead they just hadn't said anything, kept their head down, doing their thing.
And like I said, I don't think this is a sign of trouble at Bungie. I think this is more of the publishers going, we just can't be throwing unwarranted amounts of hype at something anymore unless it's massive. And while Destiny is big, it is not the once-in-a-lifetime game-changing event that you see with, say, Death Stranding.
It's not Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the following. It can't just start swinging 4 years out.
Yeah. So let's not worry. Let's not panic. Let's just see how this shakes out and take a look at when it comes out if Destiny 2 is going to be any good or not. Anyways, while we're on the topic of new games coming out and all that good stuff, let's talk about something that I'm far more excited about than Destiny 2.
Way more excited about.
And that is Subset Games, the makers of FTL, have announced Into the Breach. This is their new game coming.
Hell yes.
Excuse me, I had to take a sip something there. The game is called Into the Breach, and the description is as follows. The remnants of human civilization are threatened by gigantic creatures breeding beneath the earth. You must control powerful mechs from the future and hold off this alien threat. Each attempt to save the world presents a new randomly generated challenge in this turn-based strategy game, coming to Windows, Macs, and Linux when we feel it's ready.
I love these guys.
Yeah. This is essentially Pacific Rim, the strategy game.
I love FTL. FTL was like one of the best games of that year, just hands down. I've played a shit ton of it. I have it on my laptop. I have it on my old crappy work laptop because it runs on pretty much anything. So I'm really excited for the next game that these guys are putting out.
Same here. I love the old school strategy stuff to begin with, so this game is immediately up my alley. I like the Pacific Rim feel to it. The fact that it's even called Into the Breach is heavily reminiscent of that movie.
Than that, you know what this game makes me think of? Because it's a game we talked about recently. A game that we said, exactly, yeah. Advance Wars. Something that needs another one. And this really kind of gives me that Advance Wars vibe. I mean, it's giant robots versus giant monsters, but the kind of art style, the aesthetics, the way the life bars and stuff work makes me feel like that.
Yeah, I'm way looking forward to this game. No word when it's coming out because, once again, to quote them, it'll come out when they feel it's ready. Fucking take your time with it.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with you going as long as you need to for this. And it's a small team too. I think Subset Games is maybe 6 people total. It's one story lead, one programmer, and then everyone else is like some contract guys. Like Ben Prunty does the soundtrack. The FTL's doing the soundtrack to this, and then they might have a couple of voice recording studios outsourcing the lines of dialogue. But for the most part, it's 2, maybe 3 people with another 2 or 3 people on top for support. So take your time, guys. I have faith in you, and I trust your product.
Yeah, I'm excited. Great.
We got a couple more news stories for you. We're going to go through these pretty quick, and one of them is just a bit of Switch news, mainly on the tech side of things. David, why don't you take this over?
I actually enjoy this Switch news because one thing they recently talked about is that the Nintendo Switch owners, anyone who picks it up, is going to get let into a Splatoon 2 demo. And you might be thinking, well, why the fuck does this show care about Splatoon 2? Because, I mean, we're not the biggest Splatoon guys. Well, I understand that a lot of people like that game. It's very fun. While they're talking about this is actually from Nintendo.com's actual report. They mention the fact that Splatoon 2 is going to have a feature called LAN Play. Now, LAN Play is going to allow 10 docked systems, 8 players and 2 spectators, to connect via wired LAN. So you can use the Switch to make local private battle tournaments without the need for an internet connection, which is kind of huge, because the last few Nintendo consoles have not supported any kind of LAN features. So, matter of fact, when they pulled the internet support from the Wii, players of Mario Kart that wanted to do LANs had to actually hack the fucking console to get this kind of shit to happen. So it's amazing that they're actually just allowing the feature. It's great. I love it. It's a throwback to having a bunch of people over, plugging a bunch of Xbox in together so you can play Halo and all that stuff. That sounds awesome. However, since it's Nintendo, of course, there's a caveat, because the Switch does not have a hardwired Ethernet port. It's wireless LAN only. So in order to use this feature, every single person that's bringing their Switch over to your house, so you can guys have your giant Splatoon party, is going to need to buy the $30 USB to Ethernet dongle from Nintendo.
Fuck off.
Now, with that, there are cheaper USB to Ethernet dongles that exist, and the old consoles actually supported those, but they didn't support LAN Play via them. Whether or not the Switch will is kind of up for debate. It might be using the exact same technology, so maybe instead of having to spend $30 to get the Nintendo product, you can spend $7 and just get one cheap off Amazon. That we'll have to wait and see, but the fact that a feature exists makes me excited, honestly. Because potentially think that at some point there's going to be a Mario Kart game for the Switch. I think it's safe to assume that's going to happen. You could have 8 friends in a room, each with their own Switch in front of them, all land together playing Mario Kart on their own screens.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
It is a cool idea. I don't know, man. I have such a clouded outlook on anything Nintendo these days.
I get that, and I'm usually the one who's really mad at Nintendo in general, because I want to be a fan of them. I'm really trying to get excited for the Switch, but they just keep under-delivering for me. But this is at least, while Nintendo'd in variety, a nod in the right direction.
Fair enough.
Now, another nod, and this is from an article via geekygadgets.com, and there's various other sources, but the Nintendo Switch will actually be using the NVIDIA Unreal Engine 4. Now, the reason this is exciting, is that means that PC games will pretty easily port to the Switch. A lot of stuff that's already running on Unreal 4 means that it's familiar. PC game developers have been using it for a while now, so third-party software shouldn't be impossible to put on the Switch. So unlike the Wii U, which had its crazy architecture, was a huge pain in the ass to develop for it, and that's why no one put any games on it. Well, the only things you saw really were Nintendo first parties and a couple of things here and there. This should be damn easy. Now, if you're putting your game on PC already, it shouldn't be just a few more things to do it, and you can get it on the Switch.
Now, keep in mind, this is still dependent on what the final hardware specs of the Switch are actually going to be. Because Unreal 4 is pretty ubiquitous on a lot of titles out right now. It doesn't mean dick if your internal hardware is a potato.
Although, considering the fact that this thing is, a month out?
Yeah, we still don't know anything about it. We still don't know anything about it. Other than these random tidbits of news and everything coming up. I expected, at least a direct to address like the tech side of things, or hey, this is what the Switch can do as far as the power goes, or at least some kind of document coming out that discusses this.
Well, the big thing is
we don't have
there was
any
an
of that.
update there was an update on the Nintendo blog recently where they updated the Nintendo specs page without any kind of release. So there's a lot more information available on the Switch than we had before, which is how we know about like the wireless LAN and the LAN support and all that stuff. But it doesn't get into any of the actual hardware numbers. So we don't know the GPU, we don't know the CPU speed, we don't know any of that shit.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. Anyways.
But, which I think they're just keeping it in the dark because they don't want people to know how crappy the system is, honestly, in comparison to like the PS4 Pro, the upcoming Scorpio, the Xbox One S, all that.
That's what I think too.
They don't want that number out because they don't want people to start making comparisons yet. They're probably not going to say shit until the thing actually comes out, because they want people to buy the idea of the Switch and to get excited for the games of the Switch and not rely so much on the technical prowess, because let's be honest, Nintendo hasn't made a hardcore gaming console that's at the front end of the graphic spectrum in a really fucking long time. And honestly, like their last competitive console was the GameCube, graphically.
Yeah, I want to say that was the last console that they made that was designed to compete with its contemporaries, and then after that,
before they decided to be the second console for everybody.
Yeah. Anyways, that kind of wraps things up for Switch news. We do have one more bit of tech geek stuff that we want to go to. And
this is probably potentially the most boring article for other people, but very exciting for me. So this is from CNET, and the big news is HDMI 2.1 is happening. So while HDMI is a thing that's been around for a while, HDMI 2.1 is just a kind of change in the architecture that makes it a little bit better. The article gets really detailed on exactly what's going on here and what it can do. For 4K TVs max out at a certain hertz. A lot of times if you're playing games, they need to be run a different way. If you've ever tried to plug your PC into your TV and use your TV as a monitor, you've probably noticed screen tearing, input lag, all kinds of issues because your monitor has such a higher frame rate than your TV does a lot of the time. But with this 2.1, that could go away. Part of the reason is the software is going to support potentially up to 8K and 10K televisions. Now, obviously, the TVs aren't even there yet, but the cable will be able to handle it. But it also comes with a feature called Game Mode VRR, which is a pretty badass name for a thing that's in an HDMI cable. But from the CNET article, the Game Mode VRR feature could potentially improve input lag, bringing TVs in closer parity to computer monitors. It could also remove or at least reduce two serious visual artifacts, which are judder and image tearing. So in the near future, it might not be a bad idea to get your TV plugged in your PC and actually have full quality gameplay as opposed to jittery, buggy nonsense.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Yeah, same here. It is interesting. It is still far down in the future. You're going to expect, and when it comes out, you're going to have to wait a couple years for it to actually be affordable.
Well, because the big thing is that even if this came out right now, chances are, even if we plugged our computers in together, neither one could actually handle the video output to get this working.
Not 8K.
Hell no.
Uh,
I'm sure there's people that have $10,000 computers sitting around that can, but for the rest of us, we're gonna have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, technology is advancing quicker and quicker, though. So
I just thought it was a really cool article, so I'm pretty excited about that.
No, it's definitely interesting to see them actually making this big leap, because 4K is still relatively new, and now they're talking about like 8 and 10K. Back when, for the longest time, the standard barrier was 1920 by 1080.
Well, because if you think, there was a point in time where 1080p 60 frames per second seemed impossible.
Yeah.
Just unreasonable. Now, potentially, we're going to have stuff pushing 4K at 120.
We're advancing really fucking quick, and I'm jazzed to see it. But yeah,
that pretty much wraps up all of the news for this week. Now we're on to new releases, which are games that aren't coming out, but are games that you can play now, or at least by the time this show's on YouTube.
Yeah, week of 2013, so Monday. David, what do we have coming out this week?
Well, we have the game that was recently in beta for a weekend that's made by Ubisoft for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and that's For Honor, a game that looks flippin' badass, but I'm still not going to pick it up because it's a damn Ubisoft game.
Yeah, that Uplay sucks.
Highly wouldn't recommend pre-ordering this. I actually don't even necessarily want to recommend picking up day one, because if you've been watching a lot of YouTube videos like I have, it looks pretty buggy. I understand the combat is really tight. It looks great. It looks like it plays really well, except for when it bugs the hell out. And just, I don't know, the last few big Ubisoft releases for me have not been great out of the box. In 3 months or so, this game might be fucking amazing.
Yeah, this game does come out in about...
I'm really on the wait and see here for this game. I absolutely want to play it. It looks phenomenal.
This game does come out in about 15 minutes, I believe, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I did do a preview back in December for GameCritics.com for it if you want to go take a look at it. My impressions were roughly that the multiplayer is fucking amazing, but the single player is very much tacked on. So if you are getting this and not looking to play in a group or with friends and you just kind of want a single player experience, this is not going to be the game for you. Their focus on this is very much on the multiplayer. They're trying to make this a medieval combat version of Rainbow Six Siege.
This is the HD, technically capable version of Chivalry we've always wanted.
Yeah, that's actually a very good way of putting it. The game was fun. I personally don't see myself playing it more than a couple hours, though, so just keep that in mind, especially if you are, like me, someone who just wants a single-player experience without having to deal with other people.
However, if you are into multiplayer, especially competitive multiplayer, and you like really tight, almost like rock, paper, scissors easy action combat, considering it can be really technical in the way you can get around things and parries, honestly, it makes me feel like high-level Dark Souls PvP.
Yeah,
which is something I will always play more
of. I do recommend taking at least a look at it, and if you were... the beta's closed by now, but shit, go to YouTube. Ubisoft did a big streamer push on this game. You'll find hundreds, if not thousands, of videos for it.
Although, again, if you can manage to wait, I would still almost recommend waiting even just a few days just to see how it's performing. While I'm willing to bet the console versions will run decently well, I am curious to see how good the PC one's going to run out of the box.
Yeah, just I don't trust Uplay.
Uplay and Ubisoft, I don't trust at all. Anyway,
what else we got, David?
Also out this week for PS4 and Xbox. It's actually been on PC since like October. That's Ride 2. Ride 2 being the sequel to Ride, which you may know as a pretty sweet motorcycle racing game. It looks very pretty. It plays very great. It's kind of the definitive motorcycle, at least street bike, I should say, racing game that's out now. There's been 8 million, but there's not really a new MotoGP or anything like that coming out. So if you like motorcycles and you want to race them on your console, I would pick up Ride 2. It's pretty highly reviewed on Steam. I imagine the console versions are not going to be too far behind it. Plays well. It's a very sim-style game. Don't expect it to pick it up if you're into arcadey racing, because it will not be forgiving for you. So that's my 2 cents. Personally, I love it.
Yeah, not my genre. I literally put this in here for your benefit.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Also coming out this week, Sniper Elite 4 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. There's been several Sniper Elite games. This one is continuing the kind of stealth, shooty murder action. So
getting reviewed very well. Apparently, this one is definitely worth taking a look at.
Dude, all of them have been reviewed fairly well. I mean, this one's doing great right now, and it kind of shows. I mean, if you're into the sneaky shooting things, go for it. If you love playing the sniper class when you're playing multiplayer games, it might be super fun for you. And of course, it has the super gruesome X-ray deaths, so there's that to look forward to.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it, so definitely give a look. One thing I want to mention before we get to the topic of the week is I'm aware that Halo Wars 2 technically for some people does come out this week if they pre-order like the collector's edition or I think the ultimate edition.
It doesn't come out for the rest of us. It doesn't count.
Yeah, it comes out like 3 or 4 days early. I'm not counting it this week, though.
Comes out next Tuesday.
1, we don't pre-order on this show. And 2, for the vast majority of people, they ain't even going to know it's coming out until next week. So, just in case you're wondering why I didn't mention it, that's why we will mention it next week's show. And that brings us to our final segment, and that is the topic of the week.
Woo.
With CastleVania being turned into a Netflix TV show, here at GamePoints, we are going to ask, what other games would you like to be seen turned into a high-budget TV series?
Or potentially a movie, but I think I prefer
live action. Yeah, we'll do movie as well. It doesn't have to be live action. It can be animated, like the CastleVania's one's coming out. 3 to 5 responses from each one of us, and if you're watching us live, please feel free to join in and throw out your responses as well. David, it was your topic, so why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
So I'm actually going to start with the one that I would want to see probably the most, but I've always been nervous about the thought. There's been rumors of a movie. I'm happy it hasn't come out because I'm almost positive that this franchise actually saw the silver screen without the games director being at the helm. It'll be shit. But somehow if they could give me the Metal Gear Solid experience that I've always wanted to sit down and watch, I would be down with it.
That was
as long as Kojima's in the project.
That was also on my list tentatively. I did remove it because I don't think that game
I don't
is
think
too
anyone
out there
can really.
to really
I don't think
do
anyone
it
can really do it justice, which is why I'm going to narrow this down a bit to I specifically want Metal Gear Solid 1.
Okay.
Not the franchise as a TV show in the vein of like 24 or some nonsense. And I don't necessarily need all the crazy bullshit, but a dude sneaking into an Arctic base, taking out guards silently, meeting a bunch of crazy characters, and then dramatic twists. Just, I'm down. If it was cast perfectly, I think it could be a really fun film. I feel like of all of the games, that one's maybe the least absurd and could lend itself to that the best.
Fair enough. That is a franchise that has gotten wackier as time goes on.
Yeah.
My first
Although
choice.
the time to make that game, honestly, was the 90s.
Yeah, I think so.
If it came out like right when The Rock came out, that'd have been great.
My
Same
first
composer
choice.
too.
And only because I think this is as close as I'm going to get to having the Babylon 5 remake I've always wanted, is I want Mass Effect the TV series.
Damn it. Funny enough, that was actually one of my picks. Even though I don't play the games, I know just enough about the universe that it sounds fascinating, and I would absolutely watch that as a TV show because of how much I've watched Stargate and Star Trek and all that other nonsense.
We are in desperate need of really good sci-fi right now, not the cheesy-ass budget sci-fi movies that you're seeing. I think this lends itself very well to be adapted to television. Massive backstories, big cast of characters. I'm loath to say you could do a Game of Thrones thing with it where you have like multiple viewpoints going everywhere because I don't necessarily want to see that. But there is a lot to that universe that you can tap into and expand out from there. I do want to give a shout out to The Expanse, by the way. That's really the only good sci-fi show that's on right now, so I don't want to say it's all bad. But yeah, a Mass Effect TV show would be just absolutely fantastic.
Cool. So my next one is going to also be a TV show. And this one I will actually want to be animated. The reason is because this is going to follow a bunch of more or less cartoon characters on shenanigans. I want the original story Overwatch cartoon.
Okay.
Not current, but like Omnic Crisis, all that nonsense. I want the origin of all the members.
You want them to take what they were going to do for the comic book that they canceled and put that into an animated movie series. How do you want
it? Like a TV show.
Okay.
Something that I can just flip on and it's like the adventures of these kids. The funny thing is I don't necessarily want it to be an anime TV show. No, I'm just talking a regular US cartoon in the style of like Justice League.
Okay. Sounds solid. Yeah, I can get behind that.
Because that sounds super fun. Just an Overwatch cartoon. You already got a bunch of voice actors selected. It'll be great.
My next game I want to see get some kind of TV adaptation. I want it live action. I want it to be a TV series. And it needs to be like on an HBO or a Netflix because it needs to be R-rated because it's going to be a horror anthology. And I do horror anthology, so think like Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, only a little bit darker. And I want it to be Silent Hill. I don't necessarily want it based on any of the games. I don't want it based on Yeah, I don't want the movie. No, let's ignore that. I want Silent Hill, the TV show, revolving around every week you have a different story about someone finding themselves in this town. Like so the town itself would serve as your Rod Serling-esque narrator. Here was the unifying force between all of them. And it could give us back the anthology horror show that used to be so common in the 80s and in the 60s and 70s, and I would love to see a revival of that. But it needs to be dark. It needs to be super mature. It can't be watered down at all.
All right.
I got
So
one more after yours, so go ahead and finish this off there, and then I will say mine.
what's funny is I did my list kind of in reverse order. So this is the one I'd probably least want to see, but the one I
Amateur
think
hour, man.
I don't care. I started with Metal Gear because that's how I live my life. But I actually would be pretty excited in a. It's been a really long time since we have a TV show Western. So I would like to see the Red Dead universe brought onto the screen. With all the nonsense thrown in there. Because I was thinking of a lot of the bigger open world games and how there's some really cool stories, and I'm like, and Witcher would be too complicated. Grand Theft Auto has pretty much been TV shows and movies because that's what they're all based on.
Funny enough, The Witcher actually did have a TV show based on it.
And
I mean, it's Polish,
for a
but
little
they did
while,
have it.
For a little while, I was thinking about like a Saints Row show and how absurd that would be. Then I finally decided on a more or less spaghetti western in the vein of Red Dead, with the characters, but with just as much violence and action. Just get some of that like rockstar humor thrown into like a gritty western, and I think it could potentially be magic.
Now, you kind of went the same way that I was going to with one of the ones I actually didn't make my list. This isn't my last game, but I do want to mention it real quick. I had a similar idea for a Fallout TV show. But the problem is Fallout has a lot of wackiness to it that I think would detract from being a proper TV show. To really embrace what the Fallout universe is, you would have to have like the fucking Pip Boys everywhere and the Vault Tech mascots and the bobbleheads and all the insanity, which works great in that game, but in a TV show I think would just be too jarring. It would be too schizoid.
See, I agree with you, but I think the gritty and yet somehow funny spaghetti western series could work.
Yeah, I could see that. My last one, it's a video game property we haven't seen for a while, but we talk about it all the time, and I don't want it to take the viewpoint of the main character. I want it to take the viewpoint of the resistance that's in it, and that's a Half-Life TV show. I want it to be following the poor resistance people. I want it to cover the 7-Day War. I want it to show the fall of Earth all the way up to the resistance, and then like the final series could be introducing the events of the second one or whatever it goes from there. But I think the heavy dystopian theme right now is very popular at the moment. You're seeing it with a lot of movies coming out. You're seeing it with like a lot of the young adult shit that's getting converted into movies. Netflix is making like a Handmaid's Tale movie, so dystopia is very popular at the moment, and there is nothing more dystopian than fucking City 17.
For sure. Okay, well, since you said that one,
yeah, one more surprise one.
No, I actually don't.
Okay,
I want to keep going with yours.
Okay,
I am just curious on who you would cast as the one character that's in the games that would absolutely have to be in your show.
Well, which
he
one
was on? He was on our. He was on our greatest bad guys list.
We're talking about Wallace Breen.
Yes.
Okay. So
because if you're talking about this dystopian future, at some point he's going to rise to power, so he has to be in the show.
So let me think
just
about it real
positively
quick.
Has to be.
I'm taking Bryan Cranston off the table because that's our Gordon Freeman.
Oh my god! Really?
Yeah, Bryan Cranston's Gordon Freeman, but he won't appear until like the last season or so.
He's like super old.
Yeah, but fuck you. The game's super old.
All right.
Okay, Wallace Breen. Who would make a good Wallace Breen? Let me think about this here. I like Donald Sutherland a lot, but I think his character's been overused because of the Hunger Games. Maybe someone a bit younger. Let's do his son. Let's do Kiefer Sutherland as Wallace Breen. Kiefer Sutherland as he is now, but gray up his hair. I don't know if that's a good match or not, but I like it.
All right.
Do you have it? Do you have a suggestion as who you would want? Are you trying to look it up or?
I don't remember his name. I was trying to look it up really quick.
Okay, I see you typing. I see the glazed eye, the glazed look in your eyes as you're reading.
Because I can't remember his name, and it's not really a joke pick, but I don't think it works because I don't even know if the dude's still alive. Because the last thing I saw him in was like 30 years ago. But I want the TV show host from The Running Man.
Oh, Richard Dawson? Oh, I think that's his name. I gotta look this up now. Hold on.
Yes, that's what I want.
Hella Dead died 2012.
Damn it. But the look and the mannerisms and basically his character from Running Man of just being
I think he was in the Running Man. Hold on.
Unapologetically evil. Just kind of embracing it and being in one with it, I think would have made him perfect.
Yeah, Richard Dawson, Running Man, actually was legitimately the host of Family Feud for years.
Damn it.
So yeah.
Well, I don't have any other picks, but that was my pick.
Yeah, he died in 2012, unfortunately. But yeah, I know who you're talking
Damn
about.
It. So this dream project can't happen.
No, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
We have to kill it right now.
Well,
what was his name? Killian, I think, in the Running Man.
Damian Killian.
Yeah, that's a great name, by the way. Anyways,
oh, fantastic.
You know who could actually work? You gotta be fine with doing that new thing that I actually kind of hate, where they just change like the gender and race of an established character. But I think she would work as like a Wallace, like a Wallene Breen, as it were. And that is, I can't pronounce her name, but she's also on The Expanse. Let me see if I can look her up. She was in 24. She's done a bit of voice work.
What the hell are you talking about? You can't have no Lady Breen.
Hold on.
Is Alex Vance going to be a dude?
It can be.
Cortina
sure, why
Frieden?
not? This is 2017. I'm gonna butcher her name. It's Shorey Agdashulu. Iranian,
no idea.
Yeah, Iranian actress. I love her in everything that she's been in. She has that very domineering, commanding personality. She strikes me as someone that could keep a city under her thumb. You would recognize her if you saw her, maybe. I wish I could pronounce her name. I think it's Shoraya. I feel like an ass.
If he was slightly less built, you could throw Stephen Lang in there.
Yeah, Stephen Lang needs to eat like a crate of Cheetos a day to become Wallace.
Yeah, he would seriously need to stop working out and just start hitting Jack in a Box to really fill out the role.
I feel like we can actually put our heads together and come up with a good casting choice on this. However,
we'll work on that for another episode.
Yes, we are running out of time. And with that, we're going to wrap up. This has been GamePoints episode 79. Thank you for tuning in. We are live every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. If you do watch us live, feel free to join in the chat and participate and all that good stuff. It's kind of the point of the show, doing it on Twitch, is to get the audience participation in here. But if you can't join us live, you can always watch us on YouTube. Just type in GamePoints, one word, we pop right up, and feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and all that stuff down below. You can go to our Facebook to see if we're going to get delayed for any reason, which does happen occasionally. You can follow the show at GamePoints PC on Twitter. You can follow us individually. I'm Stephen Brown at CapitalistPig21. That is David Smith at Shife_Satori. And I believe that wraps things up. We will see you next Monday. This has been GamePoints, and we are out of here.
Don't pre-order.